students, this is Miss Hill, and we're going to cover the Tutorial 7 review assignment, steps 5 through 12. And in this video, we're covering the if statement again, or the if function. We're also going to do the H lookup, V lookup, and some conditional formatting. So let's get started with step number 5. It says all employees with 1 or more years of service are eligible for a pay grade for a bonus. So over here is our bonus for our pay grade 1 employees, pay grade 2, and pay grade 3. So what we have to do is we have to nest the if function like we had done in the previous video with the and function, just so that we can make sure that we're covering all of our bases here. Now, if you scroll down through the worksheet, you'll notice not everybody is pay grade 1, 2, or 3. There's also one person right here that's a pay grade 4. So technically, we need to make sure that we cover everything. And the book says if they're not pay grade 1, 2, or 3, then they get an NE for not eligible. So let's start here in the bonus column and go up to our formulas, logical, and if. So what I always like to do, if you're dealing with something where you're counting like in an ascending or descending order, for example, 8,000, 6,000, 3,000, one of the things that I like to do is I like to start at the top and go down. You could actually go any order with this, but I'm just going to start with pay grade 3 just because it's kind of the thing I do. So our first logical test, which cell are we looking at? Which we're looking at column I2. So we want to know if I2 equals a 3. Okay, if that's true, then their bonus is going to be equal to Y4. And we want to make sure that we use the absolute value there to calculate that 8,000. Now you can see already it started previewing the answers to say, oh, okay, well, yeah, this is true, you get 8,000. But if that weren't true, then that we have to look at the next number that's available, which is a 2. So here in the value if false, we're going to go up here to the name box and nest an if function. Okay, so now our next box. So again, we want to know if the pay grade equals 2, then what? It's going to equal Y3. And let's again use absolute value because we don't want that to change as we drag that down. Now if it's not pay grade 2, then what? We've tested for 3, we've tested for 2. So let's nest another if function. And here we're going to test the pay grade for 1. If that pay grade's 1, they're going to get Y2. Okay, now here's where we have to wrap this up. We've already tested to see if they're pay grade 3. We've tested to see if they're pay grade 2. And in here we've tested to see if they're pay grade 1. If they're not 1, then technically they're not eligible, or NE. So there's no other thing that they could be. So after you enter that, click OK. And let's scroll down. Take a look. Looks pretty good. And good. That means our pay grade 4 got a not eligible. That's exactly what we wanted to see. So if you look up at the top at your nested if function, I know probably it looks a little confusing with your table labels there, but you can always click in any of these and break it down, and it'll show you in this little cheat sheet right here which part you're in. But let's move on to our health cost. And that would be in, let's see, step number 6. It says in the salary increase. Oh, okay, we're going to skip over one. In the salary increase column, enter if and or functions to insert the text not eligible if the individual's job status is a consultant or the pay grade is 4. Leave the cell blank if the individual is eligible for a salary increase. So basically we're going to look, we want Excel to look down through the job status column, which is in G, and we want to see if it is a CN, we say not eligible. Also, we want them to look in the pay grade, and if the pay grade is 4, we want it to say not eligible. So now, just like in the first video where we nested an AND function in the if function, now we're going to nest an OR. So, and again, these functions all should have been covered, included the nesting in your 1863 course. So on the salary increase, what we need to do, let's start out with an if function. And within this if function, that's where we have to look at the OR function. So we're not really going to type anything in here except go up here to your name box, and we want the OR function. If it doesn't show up on your computer, you can go to more functions and look it up that way. Okay, so with the OR, we can have a bunch of different things that it could be. So the book says we want to say if the job status equals CN, that's one argument, or if the pay grade is equal to 4, we want it to say not eligible. Now what you have to do here after you've entered your criteria in the OR box, don't click OK because it's going to take you back out and have an error. We are going to go back here though and click in the if everybody can see up here in the formula bar, I'm going to click in the word if, and that takes us back to this dialog box. Now what we said, or the book tells us to do, if that's true, if they are a CN or a pay grade 4, we want it to say not eligible. If those aren't true, then it says just leave it blank. So in order to do that with an if function, you have to enter a set of quotation marks. By doing that, that means that nothing will go in there and it'll be blank. If you don't enter those 2 quotation marks, then you're going to get a false or a 0 or some other indicator. So I'm going to click OK. And it looks like we've got not eligible, but for some reason it didn't copy down. So I'm going to copy that down myself. Oh, and it did another one. Oh, sorry about that. I wasn't even thinking. The reason it was blank, it did copy down. That's my fault. It did copy down, but what happened was we told it to say blank if that wasn't the case. So my bad. So what I'm going to do, let me widen this column out a little bit. All right, good. So let's look at number 7. It says in the health cost column, so we're in R, enter the H lookup function to do an exact match lookup to calculate the health plan cost. The layout of health plan rates data that gives you the range in the lookup tables worksheet has been revised to work with the H lookup function. Use the range address reference in the H lookup function to reference health plan rates data. So if you look down in the bottom, we've got a lookup tables right here. So this is going to be what we use. So what I'm going to do is we're going to look up their health cost column. So let's look over here. It says if their plan is HMOF, it's going to be 1500, HMOI 875, so on and so forth. So let me locate over here where that is. Let's see, where is it? Because we have to have something that we actually look at. Here it is in the health plan column. So there's where our criteria is that we're going to look at. So let's start here in R2. And let's go to lookup and reference. We're going to choose H lookup. Okay, so when we get to this dialog box, it says, okay, what is our lookup value? When it says lookup value, this is the cell that we are looking at to determine what's going to change this cell. So this cell determines what we're going to say here. So I'm going to click on L2 because that is the lookup value. The table array is going to be over here on lookup tables. And I'm just going to highlight those. Now notice I'm not highlighting the plan or monthly premium. And I also am going to press F4 so that we make those absolute values because we don't want those drugged down or across. And our row index number is going to be 2 because that's where the information is located in that table array. So I'm going to click OK. And if you look down through there, that's perfect. So now we've got that. Then it says step number 8. In the award column, modify the VLOOKUP function to incorporate the if-error function and display the message invalid hire date. Test the modified formula by changing the date in cell C2 from 313 to 1313. So what we're going to look at now is basically we're just trying to make sure that we don't have any errors here. So it says we want to look at the award column, which is over here in S. And it says we want to modify the VLOOKUP. So take a look up here. We've already got a VLOOKUP function. So what we're going to do, we want to modify it to incorporate the if-error function and display the message invalid hire date. Now, a lot of us aren't familiar with the if-error function because it's not something that we normally use, but it is used to validate data because we all know people that if we hand this over to, they'll have it screwed up by the time they're done. So this kind of helps us validate the data that they're putting in there. If you look in your book on page 396, the if-error function is covered, and it's exactly pretty much similar to the same thing that we're doing here. So what we're going to do to modify this, we're just going to click before VLOOKUP, and I'm just going to type if error and put the parentheses in there. Now, what you have to do after that is you're going to have to go back to the end, and then you're going to have to use a comma, then what you want it to say if the correct data is an input. And here it says it wants invalid hire date. So now we've got your VLOOKUP is protected inside this left parenthesis and right parenthesis. Then you've got outside of it is your if-error function. So I'm just going to press enter. And they said you can test it by going up and entering an invalid hire date. And so that's what you're going to get, which that's exactly what you want it to say. That way when people are entering these hire dates, if they're messing up, especially with the number pad, it's very easy to screw up a number. It kind of gives you one way, at least, to safeguard against errors being entered in those cells. Okay, number 9, it says in the employer ID column, change the format color of the duplicate value conditional formatting rule to green. Okay, so what they're saying here is in your employee ID column, instead of this, we want it to be green because it said if you've got duplicate numbers. Again, this is a safeguard from accidents or mistakes. So since we've already got a rule in place for our conditional formatting, we just have to go change the rule. So we're going to go to conditional formatting up here on the Home tab and go to Manage Rules. Okay, I'm going to click on the rule and edit. And so basically we're just going to change the format of this. So I'm going to click Format and Fill. So we're changing the background color to this, is what the book states. So I'm just going to click OK. OK again. I'm going to apply it and OK. And scroll down, and we've changed. Now the only reason I knew that they already had that rule in place was it says change the format color of the duplicate value conditional formatting rule. That means it's already there using the Rules Manager dialog box. So you just go in and change it that way. Okay, then it says go to the Reports worksheet and enter the Countif function in cells C4 and C5 to count the number of female and male employees. So no worries here. We're just going to go up using that Formulas tab again in More Functions, Statistical, and Countif. Now the Countif function is saying we are going to count you if you meet a certain criteria. Again, this is stuff you should have covered in 1863. So I'm going to click Countif. So what it says is we want a count of female employees. So our range is going to be back on our employee data sheet. And we're going to look, our range is going to be right here in column E. So I'm going to get all of that included. All right. And our criteria is F. Or wait a minute, we probably need to put that in parentheses. Yep. So because it gives you a preview here. So 53 female employees. Now instead of doing that all over again, the best way I think is just use your fill handle and copy this straight down. And it's going to copy the formula, but that's okay. All you have to do is click on C5 on your mail, then go up here in your formula bar and change that F to an M and press enter, and that saves you a ton of time. Okay, so our next thing we have to do is average the salary for females. So to do that, I'm going to go up to more functions and again grab this average if I can find it. There we go. And it says, okay, what is the range that we're looking at? So what we're going to look at here is we're looking at the sex. So we're going to highlight this. Okay. Then it says, what's the criteria? So we have to say the criteria here for sex has to be F. Then it says, okay, well, I see what you want me to look at. I see the criteria that I need to look for. Now, what are the numbers that you want me to average? So we have to go back to the employee data and pick up this annual salary column. And this has a few more steps than the other just because you have to enter those three things. Okay, so I'm going to click OK. And that takes us back over. We're going to do that same step that we did before, only we're just going to change the F to an M. Ouch, that doesn't look good for the sexist argument there. That's another discussion for another day though. Okay, let's see. Then it says save and close the workbook. Submit the finished workbook to your instructor. So all I'm going to do here is just make sure I've saved that. Now you can submit this to me and you get points for it. So it's an actual homework assignment. I hope that helps answer some of your questions. This book is different in that it's not going to be a step-by-step book. This book is meant to teach you real-life situations. It's not a book that is going to just give you step-by-step for everything. This book is really important. Make sure that you read the chapters because that's where you're going to pick up the information. Do like I do. If you hit a step that you don't understand or you don't know, go Google it. You'll find out a ton of stuff just by Googling things if you're not understanding. But again, continue to ask me questions. I'm going to continue to make videos and we'll just keep going from there. And I'm really proud of you guys. You're doing a super great job. And just please let me know if you have any other questions.